Bom dia a todos e a todas.
Good morning to all. For this high-level conference on the disability rights strategy of the European Union for 2021-2030, we are going to open this meeting. Now, welcome. We are at the Centro Cultural of Belém, and we are going to be speaking from here. Please keep your microphones off during the session and only turn them on when you are speaking. Now, to open the conference, Ana Mendes Godinho, Minister of Labour and Social Security of Portugal, will now give the opening speech. Prime Minister, Commissioner Helena Dalli, Ministers, and Ana Sofia Antunes from Portugal for the Rights of Disabilities, and I am here in Portugal to welcome you. I will welcome you here. Unfortunately, we are still in a virtual setting, and next time I do hope that we will be able to meet in person at the Centro Cultural of Belém, the center of the Portuguese presidency of the Council. Now, the participation and active contribution of all the representatives from civil society and from the member states, we are going to be opening a debate on the rights of persons with disabilities. The Portuguese presidency decided to focus on some elements of these strategies. First of all, the European Disability Card, which aims to make the free movement between the various member states easier for persons with disabilities, so that we can reduce barriers for these people. This is a voluntary strategy which contains mutual benefits. Personally, I believe that this initiative is a true step towards improvements to promote the rights of citizenship of disabled individuals. The second roundtable will be about the indicators and objectives that can be set and the monitoring systems for policies in the states. We will be discussing the indicators in order to establish a roadmap that is effective for the strategy. And then we will be focusing on the disability platform that the European Union hopes to launch this year, and that we hope will become a forum for the exchange of information concerning the implementation of the strategy in the member states. This is indeed an instrument that is fundamental for disabled persons, and it aims to reduce discrimination and promote the rights of persons with disabilities so that they may enjoy their rights in a fully equal manner and participate. We hope to really implement this strategy properly. As the presidency of the Council of the European Union, Portugal is truly committed to this. I hope you have a fantastic conference. Thank you very much. Let's begin the work. Now we will be watching a video from António Costa, the Prime Minister of Portugal. Good morning. In March this year, the Disability Rights Strategy for 2021-2030 was launched. This is a true objective for all the member states. The truth is that people with disabilities still encounter many barriers and they are at higher risk of social exclusion. So this is truly important to help them live independently and equally. It is also important to monitor the strategy. I would like to highlight the digital and services elements of this strategy in order to promote inclusion and independence. We want to improve the quality of life of individuals with disabilities, and we want to mainly reduce discrimination. This strategy is highly relevant, and it must be implemented properly by the European Union and the member states. The needs of the individuals and the NGOs and other associations must be taken into account, as well as the projects of the European Union. The governance and monitoring of of the implementation of this strategy are going to be crucial for the success of its implementation. In Portugal, since 2015, the government has been developing instruments to ensure the full exercise of the citizenship rights of individuals with disabilities in a democratic state. As a result, specific initiatives and projects were carried out to promote the independence and quality of life of individuals with disabilities. For example, there is a strategy at the moment for educational inclusion, for independent living, and there is a new system in order to promote the access or easier access for people with disabilities to digital services. NGOs and other organizations will participate in the approval for the national strategy of disability rights for 2021-2030. I would like to highlight the importance of the program for the employment of disabled individuals. The support is provided to employ persons with disabilities on the labor market, as well as training programs to promote entrepreneurship amongst persons with disabilities too. We want access to be full for people with disabilities or difficulties in the country, because we want to fight the isolation of these individuals. For example, in public buildings and in private buildings as well, we are going to be promoting more barrier-free access. As to digital services, more useful services will be provided in order to help and support persons with disabilities. In March, we launched a new project to help disabled individuals above the age of 18 to access the labor market and other rights. So all these support services and social services for inclusion in Portugal are truly underway. We are currently also monitoring the existing projects, and we always take into account the needs of persons with disabilities. The pilot projects for greater independence amongst disabled individuals is also being monitored. And we do hope that in 2023, we will have a full evaluation of what has been done. Our programs are ambitious, And I do hope that they will be efficient in order to reach our objectives, i.e. a fairer society that leaves no one behind. Thank you. Now, Elena Dali, the European Commissioner for Equal Rights, has the floor. Thank you.
Enquanto a senhora comissária Helena Dali tenta ligar-se a nós, vamos passar...
And while we wait for the technical problems on the side of Elena Dali to be resolved, let us move on with the report on the work carried out. Ana Salvador will be taking the floor. She is a graduate in the area of social policies in the area of disabilities in Portugal. She worked for the Centre for Rehabilitation for several years up till 2011. She helped to plan policies to improve the quality of life of persons with disabilities. The plan for the integration of persons with disabilities from 2006-2010, as well as the strategy for disability rights until 2011 were some of her contributions. Now she works on communication and the monitoring of the programs for monitoring, for example, the UNCRPD. Now, Ana Salvador, you have the floor. Thank you. The interpreter apologizes. There is no sound. There is no sound in the English booth.
No. Ana Salvador, this is tech support from Lisbon. You have your microphone off.
Peço imensa desculpa.
Ana Salvador, I do apologize.
Neste momento já me estão a ouvir, certo?
Can you hear me now?
Vou ter que então recomeçar.
I will have to start again. Good morning to all. First of all, I would like to thank the Portuguese presidency for inviting me to speak. The Disability Rate Strategy 2020-30 integrates the social rights of disabled individuals. There are several areas which we will be focusing on. The quality of life for all is a priority within these democratic models and a fairer society. Groups representing persons with disabilities, social organizations, and others have been consulted to share their experiences concerning the strategy in order to inform the debate on the needs and so on. This strategy is very important. It is fundamental in order to guarantee the access to persons with disabilities in all areas of life. This is an opportunity for us to promote fairer, just, and positive inclusion. This is a challenge. It is difficult to adapt what has already been built, but we must also guarantee that what is created today fulfills the criteria for equal access. The implementation plan focuses a lot on monitoring, on regulations in order to guarantee a fairer society. This is very important in the context of the strategy. To consider the rights of persons with disabilities require universal solutions. In truth, the technical possibilities are available in order to provide responses and solutions. The point is that we must combine the forces of various players. Specialists must also be involved, and those with disabilities must also be included in the conversation. Progress in this area is fundamental. The fact is that digitalization has created more barriers to people with disabilities, and we have now seen that in the middle of in the 21st century, it is also possible to reduce the possibilities for persons with disabilities. Digitalization has been the proof of this. Many people were not able to participate in the conversations. The technical production of standards should be the object of focus here. Over the past decades, the production of knowledge has grown greatly, and on this panel we must recognize that greater awareness and monitoring should take place, and there should be more monitoring of the strategies implemented. Monitoring should take place on the level of the new techniques, and technologies in order to guarantee that they are accessible to all, especially persons with disabilities. I would also like to add that universal design is something which should take into account all the needs of everyone, because these will guarantee the full exercise of rights of persons with disabilities. Policies will then be able also to take into account the needs of these persons. Commissioner Helena Dalli mentioned that persons with disabilities will be taken into account in the exercise of policies in all relevant areas. A more efficient system should be implemented in order to guarantee the rights of all. The second panel spoke of independent living possibilities. The contribution of the academics and of NGOs were significant. We need to ensure that persons with disabilities can live independently. I think that we need to lift the barriers that still exist for rights of persons with disabilities, so that they can vote, go to the cinema, work, and basically be citizens. The independence of persons with disabilities is very important. The progress made will be monitored in terms of the rights of persons with disabilities, and future projects will also be evaluated. It is important to be able to evaluate all progress made in the European Union as well as in the member states in order to guarantee quality of life for persons with disabilities. Without planning and without evaluations, the success of the strategies is at risk. It is crucial that the various member states pay close attention to the implementation of the disability rights strategy in order to lift barriers to persons with disabilities and to evaluate the impact of the processes and progress made, so that they can be members of societies as they should be. We hope that the progress made in some areas will see an avalanche effect and will progress even more. Gloria Magalhães mentioned that indicators are fundamental because they must be taken into account when assessing the success of public policies. Independent life or independent living is fundamental, as well as concrete responses to the needs of persons, for example, in the form of assistance in classrooms. The right to have a job, training, high quality education and equality are all crucial elements here. The main ideas on education were very interesting. School for all is fundamental in a democracy. All people should be equal, and children with disabilities should be trained in the competences required for tomorrow. The curriculums in schools will be able to help promote knowledge about the wealth that persons with disabilities can bring to society. The education should ensure the full integration of children with disabilities, and differentiated responses should be available to allow all children to participate. Inclusive education is a holistic vision in which everybody gains something, because the children without disabilities will be more balanced citizens. They will be more aware of the weight of the barriers in place. They will have more knowledge about the difficulties of the families of persons with disabilities. Tools to guarantee inclusive and the integration of all children should be truly committed. All resources and all instruments that can be put into practice in order to promote the values of inclusive education are essential. A toolkit will be produced in order to make School for All a reality. If schools are inclusive, why not the labour market? The labour market can also adjust to specific criteria. We all saw the videos shown yesterday on the labour market. Lack of income, exclusion, and marginalization are all elements which must be taken into account for those with disabilities. The fact is if society is more inclusive, everybody gains something from it. There are still many challenges that we need to overcome. Public services, for example, in the field of employment are still key, and they need to pay more attention to not leaving anybody behind and increase employability. Responses are provided to persons with disabilities, and here the employers are a target that we need to reach. The lessons are not new. We have learned a great deal. When the learnings of lessons are applied, this is positive. We need to change the narrative on disability amongst employers, and mediators as well as investments must be made in this area. Campaigns must be carried out to fight for the rights of persons with disabilities. And yesterday we saw some videos in which the persons with disabilities themselves had a voice and expressed themselves. We need to reduce inequality between people with and without and we need to have a more adequate monitoring systems to evaluate the projects. I think that I have made it clear here that the new strategy on disability rights is a clear move towards the improvement of human rights. And if every single member state shows commitment and pools their efforts in order to make a difference to improve the quality of life of persons with disabilities, we will be successful. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ana Salvador. And now
that the technical problems have been resolved, Elena Dali,
European Commission,
European Commissioner for Equality,
Elena Dali, now that we've
you
cleared
have the
up the
floor.
technical problems. Thank you.
Thank you, and I apologize for what happened. My computer just crashed, and it's telling me it cannot take any more video conferences. Too much, and it just gave up on me. Anyhow, thank you for your patience. Last month, the Commission presented its strategy for the rights of persons with disabilities, as you all know. It is our compass for further progress. It will help us ensure that all persons with disabilities in Europe enjoy their human rights, have equal access and opportunities to participate in society and the economy, and are able to move freely in the EU and to decide where and how they live. And it is in line with our obligations under the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Let me stress that of all the actors who will play a part in the strategy's implementation, member states are of the essence. Your engagement is crucial to make this strategy a success and to promote participation of persons with disabilities in society. We need your commitment to make improvements in the lives of persons with disabilities. We will support you. Your support and contributions are essential to deliver the fully fledged European Disability Card, to improve the free movement of persons with disabilities across our member states, and this flagship will build on the EU Disability Card pilot project. It will be the topic of the first technical presentation today. Your commitment are fundamental to set targets for employment and participation in adult learning of persons with disabilities. The work on targets and indicators is vital. It includes linking them with the European Pillar of Social Rights Action Plan and its renewed social scoreboard. The topic of national disability-related targets and indicators will be the focus of the second technical presentation. Your engagement will be reflected in the new disability platform. We expect the platform to be a tremendous tool to boost cooperation and the implementation of the strategy, the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, national disability strategies. This flagship will be presented in the third and last technical presentation of today's roundtable. The strategy is our joint tool to improve the lives of persons with disabilities in the EU. Let's now build on the commitment you have demonstrated so far and make this roundtable an opportunity for further productive discussion. I look forward to continuing our intensive cooperation. It will soon be marked by important milestones. The Porto Social Summit in May, focusing on implementing the European Pillar of Social Rights Action Plan, and Council conclusions on the rights of persons with disabilities to be adopted at June's EPSCO meeting. These Council conclusions will reflect your collegial engagement in the area of disability. For the Commission, they will represent your endorsement of our strategy. This will allow us together to move a step further towards achieving a union of equality for the benefit of our citizens. Successful implementation of the strategy also requires ongoing dialogue and consultation with persons with disabilities and their representative organizations. I am committed to ensuring that the Commission actively involves persons with disabilities as we implement the strategy and deliver on the EU's commitments. I am counting on member states to do the same. Let me again thank the Portuguese presidency for hosting this high-level event. It has further reinvigorated our engagement to work together to achieve full participation of persons with disabilities in our societies. I wish you all a thought-provoking and inspiring meeting. Thank you again for your attention, and again, apologies for the mishap. Thank you.
Muito agradecemos as suas palavras, Senhora Comissária.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. We're now going to begin our ministerial roundtable presided by Ana Mendes Godinho, Minister of Labour, Solidarity and Social Security of Portugal. This roundtable will be introduced by Ana Sofia Antunes, Secretary of State for the Inclusion of Persons with Disabilities. She will give introductory remarks, mentioning a number of different technical points, and then we will have the ministers to follow. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Elena Dali, for your constant commitment to results, your determination, and being able to work together to guarantee a good outcome of all these ambitions, and also sharing with you the difficulties that have been reflected frequently here, and also difficulty in accessibility. This means we have to be very active in our work towards providing better accessibility. And certainly we have got to try and guarantee how we manage this through our communications. Now, we're going to have this roundtable. I will give the floor right away to the Secretary of State for the Inclusion of Persons with Disabilities, Ana Sofia Antunes. She will make the introductory remarks on the different topics we will discuss at the roundtable. Minister, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. I would like to repeat my thanks to the Commissioner for Equality, Elena Dali, and to the Minister. Special greeting to the Minister who has expressed this message, this question of the commitment of Portugal in all of this, revealed not just in the measures that we have already implemented and that we have used to show how we have some consolidated practice in this country, but also the commitments that we have assumed within our mandate. The Minister, for reasons of travel abroad, could not be with us this morning. The reason for my intervention at this opening session of the roundtable is justified because when we look at policy, because having the presidency of the European community, then we represent a number of topics and measures that we consider key to this subject, and looking at new European strategies on the rights of the disabled. As has been very clearly recognized here, this is a strategy that we face as an ambitious one, containing measures and objectives that can be duly implemented and used throughout this initial implementation process, so that we make solid steps forwards in terms of quality of life and recognition of those who have a disability during this period of 10 years, during which we will be implementing the new strategy. The new strategy, which is fundamental to correctly implement the measures, of course, that are part of the UN CSRPRD, also revealed as a practical tool and an essential tool to help us increase our recognition of the disabled. And these are the measures that appear in the action plan of the social pillar. Recently, this was submitted and has been discussed. It was discussed will be discussed at the social meeting in Porto in 2 weeks' time. This includes a wide number of indicators, and some of these indicators for the disabled, looking to data, constant search for data and looking at employment rates, unemployment rates for the disabled. And again, as was mentioned several times, it's fundamental to be able to guarantee the independence of these citizens, but it can't be achieved without income and without jobs. And we do have to ensure this, although not an obligation of our social sector, but we do have to try and guarantee the routes for these people to follow to be able to achieve dignified way of life through dignified jobs. 3 essential measures appear in the European strategy on the rights of the disabled. There's the European Disabled Card, which is a project that is already being tried in a pilot scheme in 18 member states and has revealed its quality and its added value for the life of the disabled. And people with disablement, they're European citizens, they're to the fore of our citizens. They have the right to move around and to work and to study in the different member states within the EU. And there they can establish their life. More temporarily, the logic is that they should be able to be able to prove their disablement so that they can gain access to a number of benefits and advantages in the different member states. For example, transport, access to culture, leisure activities, and also, to a certain extent, gaining access to social support, which are granted to such citizens. Here, the EU has established the objective of, by 2023, being able to implement this European Disabled Card in the 27 member states. Also, the experience we have gained, not just through this pilot scheme for the disabled card, but also we know this is going to be useful in carrying the project ahead. It's a document, of course, it's very valid throughout the whole of the EU and throughout the EU, which has abolished borders, and it's a common space. It will then indeed add dignity and quality to our disabled citizens. Secondly, what is also being discussed is a second topic, which is extremely important, and that is the development of indicators that are specific to disablement. As I said, the action plan for social rights and development of these indicators in the employment field, this leaves the door open for other indicators in the disablement area would be created and subdivided into subcategories within other indicators, which are general indicators, whether for social protection or quality of life, access to education, accessibility to digital or physical environments, access to new technologies, and so on. And these data, these indicators, will be essential for 2 main reasons. First of all, so that we can have solidly based data on which we can base our design and construction of political measures that will go to meet the needs of our disabled citizens. In Portugal, we realize that there are some shortcomings here, but we're not the only ones out of the 27 member states of the EU. Secondly, these data are elements that will allow us to carefully monitor and survey what is happening and looking at the strategies, seeing that really work is the outcome of these strategies. And again, we have to align this to our national strategy, which will be approved shortly. But the challenge, of course, is to implement all of this and to be able to assess to what extent we are actually changing all this into reality and that we are having an impact on the disabled. Thirdly, we today are reflecting on a measure that we feel will be very productive and merits joint political reflection within the EU, and that is the platform for the handicapped, for the disabled. I talked about this superficially yesterday. We can't look at this platform as we look at platforms as a whole. That is, there's some software. It's far more than that. This is going to be a structure that will make our connections between the different institutions of the EU practical, those that deal with the disabled. Also, it will interlink not just the national policies of each member state, but those responsible for the implementation in each member state, the Convention for the Disabled, and not just linking to the EU institutions, but also to other organizations for the disabled, the different stakeholders that work in this field. This way, altogether, I feel we will be able to implement the strategy and to adopt better policies that will put us in direct contact with the different European, regional and national institutions, all of the stakeholders that work with the disabled. Once again, and concluding, it is our duty and our desire to emphasize the objective that Portugal has, and the Portuguese presidency of the EU is to approve the conclusions on the disabled, which will reveal and demonstrate publicly the ultimatum that the different member states of the 27 countries assume publicly when we come to implement this strategy within their own countries and within their own legal settings. And here, once again, we call on everyone to work with us in negotiating these conclusions that we would like jointly to approve in June at the Council meeting. Once again, with us, I think we can drive forward this strategy, assuming approval of government programs that all the 27 member states will be implementing. And here, it's important to have some joint political reflection on this. And this is why, the Minister, I'm giving the floor back to you so that you can guide us in this voyage or this trip towards reflecting on these major measures. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ana Sofia Antunes, and thank you very much for the very good work that you are doing and guaranteeing that the disabled get priority so that we can guarantee that they will be present in decision-making. Right away, I'm going to give the floor, or rather I'm going to open up the round table on talking about the European Disability Card, and I'm going to give the floor to Ilya Gallo, who is a senior consultant at Ernst & Young and working on a pilot scheme which has been launched in 8 member states. Thank you.
Ilya, I don't know if there's a problem with the connection. Ilya, can we reach you? Ilya, we can see you, we cannot hear you yet. Not yet, Ilya. Can you? Sorry, Ilya, do you have your sound on, turned on? Ilya, the technical team is telling me that you have to turn on your mic. Trying to fix our still difficult ways sometimes to access each other. Should we pass the discussion? But it would be interesting to listen to Ilya. It's critical to have to share the experience of what's happening in these eight countries. Should we, sorry, I'm sorry for this delay. We're just trying to see if we should pass and see if the connection. Ilya, unfortunately, they are saying we cannot hear you. Let's just try another thing. If you could just take your mic off the computer to see if directly you could speak. Trying again. Yes, yes, I think we can hear you. Yes, done. Thank you, Ilya. So the floor is yours.
Okay. Just good morning and thank you. I will show some slides. Just let me know if you can hear.
Yes, yes, I can hear. We can hear you and see the slide.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. I will now briefly present the study that we performed. And the study was focused on the assessment of the implementation of the pilot action. The EU disability card was introduced in 2016 in 8 pilot member states. The 8 pilot member states are Finland, Estonia, Belgium, Slovenia, Italy, Malta, Romania, and Cyprus. And the card had the overarching objective to promote the social inclusion and the cross-border mobility of persons with disability across the Union. The card was introduced in 4 specific sectors. And the 4 sectors are culture, leisure, transport, and sport. In 2019, Ernst & Young and DEVAP conducted a study with the objective to evaluate the functioning of the card in the 8 pilot member states And the study found evidence that the card basically contributed to an overall increase in the participation of persons with disabilities in the sectors. And particularly in the sectors of sport, culture, and leisure. With respect to the transport sector, the cards contributed to reducing the barriers that persons with disability face when moving across the Union. And the third key achievements of the card, the card contributed to increasing of the overall awareness of service providers about the needs of persons with disabilities. Despite these key achievements and very important results, in light of a possible extension of the card to other member states, it would be crucial to take account of three key areas of attention. The first one is that the use and the impact of the card should be regularly monitored. It's very important that both service providers and institutions collect data systematically on the functioning of the card within the member states. The second important point to be considered is that it's crucial to ensure that the services provided thanks to the card should be fully accessible in order to incentivize the use of the card by persons with disabilities. And the third important point is that the information available relating to the implementation of the card shall be comprehensive and clearly provided to persons with disabilities. This is very important because the persons with disabilities shall organize their travels and movements across the Europe in advance. And have information about the services and benefits in the different member states. Thank you for your attention. And for any further information you would like to receive and to have, please contact evaluation.edc@et.ey.com. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada, Ilia. Acho que ficámos todos com curiosidade de ter mais informação. Eu, pelo menos, fiquei aqui bastante interessada em ter mais informação e ver como é que podíamos, de facto, aprender mais com estas experiências e ver como é que podemos começar já a pensar na sua implementação. Eu passarei agora a palavra às senhoras e aos senhores ministros, também que se inscreveram para participar, e a quem peço especialmente que se pronunciem essencialmente sobre duas questões. Desde logo, a opinião
We will focus on two issues.
que pode ser mais
So,
para garantirmos uma cobertura à escala.
we need a system that is adequate for the broad implementation of this of equality across the European Union for persons with disabilities. So this could be an appropriate instrument. I will now give the floor to those who have put their names down, so representatives from member states and ministers. I will start by Cyprus, Zeta Emilianidou, and Ireland. Please get ready to take the floor immediately afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, dear colleagues. First of all, I would like to thank the Portuguese presidency for organizing this video conference, setting the challenges and the way forward to implement the newly launched strategy for the rights of persons with disabilities. In the framework of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the new European strategy, together with the national strategies and action plans, the European Disability Card is a valuable tool to enable the fulfillment of the human rights of persons with disabilities for active participation and social inclusion. Cyprus is one of the 8 member states that participates in the EU Disability Card pilot project, and the card started being issued in Cyprus in 2017. The card allows a mutual recognition of disability status in 8 EU member states, providing access to various non-financial benefits. It allows persons with disabilities when traveling to or from these EU member states to show that they have a certified disability status in their home country. The card does not change national eligibility criteria, and member states retain their discretion to decide who is eligible to receive the card. Our experience up to date is very positive, and our view is that this EU initiative added value to the lives of persons with disabilities. We consider 2 issues as the key policy challenges that the expansion of the EU Disability Card will have to deal with. First, the type of further benefits of services for the eligible card holders, and second, the basis for mutual recognition of disability status and whether the card needs to be complemented with additional mutually accepted mechanisms. We believe that Europeans with disabilities will be empowered to participate more actively in the EU society as a whole if they are holders of mutually recognized European Disability Card, which will be a passport for the support they need. Of course, some technical issues and conditions have to be processed first. Cyprus will support efforts of this issue constructively. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada. Muito obrigada, Senhora Ministra Zeta.
Thank you very much, Minister. And we glad to have heard about your experience with the card. Now, Anna Rabbit from Ireland has the floor, followed by Italy.
Good morning, and I welcome the introduction of the card and look forward to working on it with my EU colleagues. Ireland welcomes this flagship initiative and the commitment under the new strategy. Ireland has benefited greatly from free movement of its citizens and throughout the European Union. However, we acknowledge that for some of our citizens, including those with disabilities, that the right has been a harder right to access than it has been for others. The EU Disability Card is a practical response to addressing the barriers faced by people with disabilities moving throughout the Union. By mutual recognition of disability and access to services across our borders, we can begin to remove those barriers. That would offer real benefits to millions of our citizens, immediately opening up possibilities that may not have existed before. I note that the pilot focused mainly on services relating to culture, leisure and sport. While these are important areas, I also note the intention to explore the potential of expanding the card into key areas such as labour mobility. However, the disability card cannot stand alone as an instrument for improving the experiences of people with disabilities as they travel the EU. Other instruments, initiatives and laws are required to be implemented in tandem for the best possible impact. For example, the disability card will make most impact as member states realise the transposition of the European Accessibility Act, ensuring as well as the recognition while travelling, people can expect a consistent level of accessibility in services. There will certainly be challenges in building upon the pilot and mainstreaming the disability card across all member states. However, if we are committed to realising the rights of people with disabilities in a European context, we must have the political will to address the complexities of implementing initiatives such as the disability card. If we use positive data from the pilot project, I believe we can build the potential consensus required to progress this initiative under the new strategy. I can say that Ireland will do its part in engaging in the process and assessing possibilities that exist.
Muito obrigada, Ministra Anne. Passarei agora a palavra.
Thank you very much, Minister. Now, Erica Stephanie from Italy. The floor is yours.
Érica, Érica, está sem som. Érica?
There is no sound.
Can you try again, Érica? Just still without sound. Can you unplug? Turn on? Há problema? C'è problema. Ministra, solo un momento per capire che sta succedendo. Can you please try to turn on and turn off again, just to see if there's a connection problem? Ministra, Ministra Erica, if you don't mind, we'll just, change now and ask Malta, and we'll be back to you, okay? So, passarei a palavra a Malta.
I now give the floor to Malta. Alistair de Caetano.
Thank you. Commissioner Dalli, Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Ministers and dear colleagues. On behalf of the Honorable Giulia Farrugia Portelli, Minister for Inclusion and Social Well-being of the Republic of Malta, and of Mr. Matteo Vella, Permanent Secretary within the Ministry, I would like to thank the Portuguese presidency for their initiative and for the gracious invitation to Malta to address this high-level meeting. The subject matter of this meeting is of great relevance to Malta, given the current backdrop of developments within the national context. Malta too is finalizing its own national disability strategy that will align with the goals of the EU's disability strategy. It is doing this while implementing initiatives such as the European Disability Card, initiatives which implement these goals in the practical sphere. As an official responsible for day-to-day development and implementation of policy to ensure the rights of disabled persons in Malta, I note with satisfaction the added value that initiatives such as the European Disability Card bring to these implementation efforts. Although still a pilot project at European level, it has shown how the European Union's ethos of unity and diversity can be put into concrete terms by developing a system that contributes to the removal of barriers across the Union. This squares perfectly with the title chosen for the current EU disability strategy, that of a renewed commitment to a barrier-free Europe. While the Union itself functions on the basis of the 4 freedoms, these freedoms are, unfortunately, not always accessible to disabled persons, wherever they might be across the Union. This is why Malta believes in this project and years back signed up as one of the initial 8 countries to participate in the pilot launched by the European Commission. Since then, results speak for themselves. Disabled persons in Malta have reported traveling to places such as Seville and Prague and benefiting from the protections and entitlements that the system confers on them, as if they were locals. I would like to stress, however, that accessibility is not a privilege. Accessibility is a fundamental right of all, not least of disabled persons, as spelled out in Article 9 of the UNCRPD. Malta has always believed in and worked towards ensuring this right for disabled persons. We have strong legislation in place regulating accessibility of the built environment, while we were a key driver behind the formulation and adoption of the European Accessibility Act, especially during Malta's EU presidency. However, given that attitudes must change within society, in order to ensure that this right can be fully respected, tools such as the European Disability Card can go a long way in ensuring this. In Malta, this has been done by awareness campaigns and outreach led by the Commission for the Rights of Persons with Disability. Different entities, such as social security offices and banks, are sensitized by the Commission to make sure that when a disabled person presents the European Disability Card at one of their branches, staff will recognize the card, be appropriately informed of how to best engage with that person, and support with their needs. Thus, while supporting better accessibility of services, the card also allows the service provider to ensure provision of necessary reasonable accommodation to the disabled person on a case-by-case basis. Furthermore, in the spirit of breaking barriers across Europe, this project seeks to achieve, this treatment is not just reserved for Maltese residents. Any disabled person from any EU country participating in the scheme will receive exactly the same treatment. All other benefits offered to local bearers of the card are equally extended to bearers from other participating countries, such as incentives from companies further to outreach by our Commission to make inter-island travel more accessible for disabled persons. In Malta, we also went one step further. We believe in this project and in its benefits, and we also believe in reducing bureaucracy, making life simpler for disabled persons. Therefore, we phased out our old system of issuing patronizingly named special identity cards to disabled persons. Instead, the European Disability Card, aside from being usable in any other participating EU country by its Maltese bearer, now also serves as the sole form of disability identification issued by the Maltese authorities. Malta also ensured that accessibility to obtaining and renewing the card itself was paramount. During the challenging times we are facing due to the COVID-19 pandemic, relevant processes for issuing and renewing said cards continued uninterrupted, with an accessible online system being put in place, with on-the-ground support being offered to applicants in order to be able to complete relevant processes as and when needed. Malta commits towards continuing its participation in the scheme at EU level. Results so far have been promising, as we have also seen from the presentation today. While Malta also has enthusiastically engaged in relevant discussions at European level in the past, be it through the Commission's Disability High-Level Group or by giving feedback to ANED, we look forward to the next stages of this project. We believe that such initiatives lay the ground in a practical manner for better access to the goals that the EU's disability strategy seeks to achieve, towards creating a true barrier-free Europe. While Malta respects the principle of subsidiarity as key to any cooperation effort involving EU member states and the Commission, we do look forward to the next steps of this project and encourage both the European Commission and our European partners to join us on this journey. While learning from you, we are also ready and willing to cooperate with you in your national efforts towards implementing the scheme, as I have already done in the past. Thank you and look forward to further fruitful discussion.
Muito obrigada, Alistair. Eu passarei agora
Thank you very much. Now, Slovenia has the floor. Andrzejas Noj.
Vamos ver se conseguimos esta ligação.
Let's hope the connection works. Slovenia?
Yeah, hello. Can
Hello,
we...
hello.
Okay.
It's working.
Fine, thanks. Dear Chair, ladies and gentlemen, first let me apologize in the name of our Minister and State Secretary who could not join us due to unforeseeable circumstances. They are sending their regards and apologize for not being able to participate in this roundtable. Slovenia devotes special attention to equal employment of all human rights and fundamental freedoms of persons with disabilities as specified in the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. One of the fundamental rights is accessibility and mobility. Therefore, we approached the project of the EU Disability Card with great enthusiasm. Slovenia was among the first member states to join the EU Disability Card project already in 2012. We set our project ambitiously and included all of the required segments of accessibility in the areas of transport, culture, tourism, sports, and leisure. Not only that, Slovenia also enacted its EU Disability Card on the basis of the Equalization of Opportunities for Persons with Disabilities Act and with the rules on the European Disability Card and associated benefits. The project was completed successfully. To achieve the best possible results, persons with disabilities and disability organizations were actively engaged in all stages of the project. In line with the plan, we started issuing the card in July 2017. Since then, the demand for the card has increased rapidly. Of course, we found out some problems in the process, but we successfully solved them. And our main objective was to implement the project and to fulfill the obligation we gave the person with disabilities in order to improve their travel conditions when traveling around Europe. Finally, let me say that we work together hand in hand with all relevant stakeholders and, as a result, persons with disabilities and more aware of the benefits of the card. We therefore agreed with the new EU strategy, which states that the EU Disability Card must be implemented in all EU member states. Only this way can the card truly enable the person with disabilities to enjoy all of its benefits. Dear Chair, as presented, Slovenia is in line with the new EU strategy for the rights of persons with disabilities 2021 to 2030, and with the EU Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and will continue to support the efforts to increase the power and scope of the EU Disability Card both in Slovenia and in the EU. Thank you.
Muito obrigada, Eslovénia. Eu passarei agora a palavra.
Thank you, Slovenia. Now I will give the floor to Greece, Konstantinos Megaritis.
Good morning. Thank you for organizing this conference. I'm here on behalf of Mrs. Domna Michailidou, Deputy Minister of Labour and Social Affairs of Greece. She was really looking forward to participating at this roundtable, but unfortunately there was an unexpected incident and she was not able to attend, and she apologizes for that. I will try to be as brief as possible. The strategy refers to the EU Disability Card as a flagship initiative, and it really is. Unfortunately, Greece did not participate in the pilot program, neither has a national disability card, but we do plan to distribute a national disability card in 2021. We plan to keep the one side of the card for national purposes and use the other side as a EU card. Hopefully, this is the way the EDC is going to be formed. This is part of a proposal we have submitted to be funded by the RRF. It's a program combined by 3 pillars. The first pillar refers to the national disability card. We plan to provide the card to all residents, not only citizens, with any kind of disability that extends 50% or 67%, it is yet to be defined. The holder of the card will be served with priority in all public services and many private services. It will be related to services of the sectors of culture and leisure, transportation, sports, and tourism. We plan to make deals with the unions of private providers to ensure that they will acknowledge the card and offer discounts and services to card holders. And we honestly believe that there are many private providers who would like to participate, but until now, they did not have a trustworthy identification document to confirm who is disabled. We also plan to establish a trademark for these providers so that they will be acknowledged by the public for their corporate social responsibility. Of course, they must be accessible to earn that trademark. Otherwise, any benefit would be useless. The first obstacle we must overcome in Greece is that we're not fully aware of who are our disabled citizens, how many they are, what type of disability each one has, or where they live. This data exists, but not in a single digital database. Therefore, the second pillar of our proposal refers to create a digital registry of disability. This registry is essential to define the beneficiaries of the card, and moreover, it will be essential for the whole welfare system, as this registry will interoperate with the National Portal of Disability of Benefits, which is the third pillar of our proposal. We are a little bit concerned about the expectations that people may have from the card, the EU card. In Greece, one of the main reasons to distribute a disability card was to protect the sensitive personal data of people with disabilities. This aspect of the card mainly concerns the invisible disabilities, but not only them. Well, in order to protect this data, the card should not state any information of the type or the percentage of disability. But this means that the benefits, rights, and services related to the card should apply to any person with any disability, no matter the type or the percentage of it. Which should be these benefits, those related to discounts and facilities and services in the sectors of culture, leisure, sports, and tourism. We do not think that the card could be related to core welfare benefits such as allowances or social services, at least not by using the card. Anyway, we would welcome the Commission to identify essential levels of services to be granted to the holders of the card. The question is, how could we relate the card to the benefits that are addressed to people with specific types or percentage of disability? Well, we believe that we need to create a common registry of disability on EU level, which will enable each member state to determine whether one individual's disability is eligible for a specific benefit without having access for GDPR reasons to the medical data of each individual. This is exactly what we plan to do in Greece with the National Portal of Disability Benefits. We also think that we could create a common digital platform where each member state will list the benefits that awards to the holders of the EU card with at least a common interface and layout. We also believe that we there should only be one card for national EU use using the two sides of the cards. Finally, it is essential that the European-wide campaign should be carried out to raise awareness of the EU disability card. The experience of the pilot program indicates that such a campaign is absolutely necessary. Thank you very much for your attention.
Muito obrigada, Constantinos, por essas ideias tão...
Thank you very much for those very practical and important ideas. They underscore the importance of the application of the disability card being coherent and consistent. Moreover, it is important to be able to promote the usage of this card. And yes, it raises awareness about it. So thanks. Now the Netherlands have the floor. Olga van Greensten. The floor is yours. Let's hope the connection works.
First of all, I have to apologize that our minister, who's also our Minister of Medical Care, is not able to join this conference because of priority activities related to counter COVID pandemic. But the Netherlands is really thankful for the opportunity to participate in this conference, and we especially thank the Portuguese presidency by organizing this high-level conference. The Netherlands welcomes the general goal of the European Disability Strategy 2021-2030, that is, ensuring the inclusion and participation of persons with disabilities in society, free from discrimination and in full respect of their rights. This goal is in line with Dutch policy. With the program Unlimited Participation, the Netherlands works on reducing the number of barriers that people with disabilities encounter in society in their everyday life. With regard to the European Disability Card, the Netherlands agrees on the importance of ensuring that persons with disabilities fully enjoy the right to free movement. Although we support the underlying goal of the European Disability Card, we wonder if we will reach our goals with this card. From political perspective, the position of the Netherlands is that the inclusion of people with disabilities in European society should not depend on a proof of disability. Rather, inclusion demands working on the general accessibility of society on a day-to-day basis. We appreciate the intentions of the European Disability Card pilot, but do not fit within the strategy that the Netherlands has chosen to implement the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. For principal reasons, the registration of disability on a personal level is, in our opinion, questionable. First of all, it can be considered stigmatizing for persons with disabilities. Secondly, registration imposes a risk of undesirable abuse of data. Furthermore, the European Disability Card could lead to an undesirable distinction between persons with disabilities who have such a card and those who can't apply for the card, have lost it, or do not want to have it at all. Concluding, the Netherlands would like to raise the following questions related to the European Disability Card. How can we prevent the possible unintended stigmatizing effect of registration for a European Disability Card? How can we prevent the risk of undesirable abuse of registration data? How can we guarantee equal access to services for all people with disabilities, whether or not they have a European Disability Card? How can we prevent a distinction in rights between citizens of the European Union with a European Disability Card and third country nationals? And what are the needs of member states regarding a European Disability Card? The Netherlands welcomes further study and dialogue about these questions related to the European Disability Card, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Muito obrigada, Holanda. Colocou aqui
Thank you very much.
Penso que é importante.
You have called into question some aspects that we really should consider. The application should not be stigmatization. There are principles that are in place to guarantee privileged access to certain services thanks to the card. I do think this was an important issue you've raised. Now, Romania, Florica Cerecic.
Thank you very much.
I do hope I haven't mispronounced your name. Thank you. The floor is yours.
It's close. My name is Florica Kerekesh. I am the president of the National Authority for the Rights of the People with Disabilities, Children and Adoptions. And I want to thank you first of all for thank to the Portuguese presidency for giving us the opportunity to learn, to share experiences and encourage one another with brilliant ideas and set up the platform for further cooperation. Romania is part of this pilot project, and I am very happy for this because our project was called Traveling with No Barriers in Europe. And for the people with disabilities, this means a lot because it addresses the human rights, but also it proves that we treat them with dignity and we consider all people equal and respond to the principle that we don't want to leave anyone behind because every person counts. This European card for disability is now present only in 8 European countries, and hopefully the number of countries that will join this project will increase, so people with disabilities from Europe can travel freely and having these benefits in more European countries. We expanded this availability of the European disability card not only to traveling into the European Union, into these 8 countries participants, but also at a national level, people with disabilities, holders of this card, could benefit of going free to different events, cultural, also in spending the free time and in sports. To formalize this, we, the National Authority, have training with all the county representatives of the social services providers in order to speak and promote this disability card and all the benefits that the card holds for the people, not only for European travel, but also to participation in cultural and sports events in the country. We signed partnership agreement with the Minister of Sports and Youth, and all the card holders can participate free to the sport events. Also with the Minister of Culture, and as a result, the holders can participate and visit different museums and participate in different art and cultural events. Also, because football is a sport that is very loved by Romanians, we signed the partnership agreement with the Romanian Federation for Football and with the Romanian Federation for Handball, and the card holders can participate for free in these sport events. We planned initially to issue 50,000 cards. We are now at 16,000 and almost 300 cards. And we see that there is still interest for issuing more cards. People who started to know more and more about this come and ask for this. And this is very good because it is important to see the people with disabilities to be among us, so we acknowledge their existence and their problems, and will be more, I mean, as a community, as a society, more open to support and respond their very specific needs. So this is another result of the project, the European Disability Card. So I'm very happy to speak about all these results at the national level, because it affects it and it improves the quality of life for the people with disabilities from Romania. Thank you very much. And as I said in the beginning, we are looking forward to hearing about more countries who joined this program. Thank you.
Muito obrigada.
Thank you very much, Romania, and above all for sharing your very specific experience with us in terms of implementing the card. I will now give the floor once again to Italy. Minister Erika Stefani. Now that we hope we're connected.
Yes, perfect. Thank you very much. I would just like to apologize for the technical issue we faced before. Good morning. I would like to thank the Portuguese presidency and the Commission for having organized this very important day. Italy firmly believes in the new strategy for the rights of persons with disabilities 2021-2030. Persons with disabilities have the right to fully participate in all aspects of life. It is our duty to guarantee their access to health, education, employment, leisure, and to guarantee their participation in political life. The strategy is an ambitious one, and it requires the full support of every member state to be successfully implemented. I am honored to be the Minister for Disabilities, a position which speaks to the Italian government's will to invest in inclusive policies. Firstly, I will coordinate the government's initiatives to strengthen the transversal approach to the problems and needs which have been brought up. All of this will be done in line with our commitment following the ratification of the UN Convention. The new strategy features some far-sighted measures, as it aims to increase the scope of mutual recognition for people with disabilities. Moreover, it aims to promote independent living of people with disabilities. It also aims to develop the EU Disability Card project. And this brings me to my next point. I am proud and pleased to inform the countries gathered here today that Italy was one of the pilot countries which signed up to the Disability Card project. We are about to implement it for good. We are currently putting the finishing touches to the last technical and legislative details before we roll out the first cards, and this should happen in a matter of months. In the Europe we yearn for, internal borders simply cannot be an obstacle to policies which protect and support people with disabilities. Indeed, a mutual recognition system is the prerequisite for mutual inclusion policies and for the full participation in life of people with disabilities, as enshrined in the UN Convention. Hence, the importance of this card within this strategy, a card which should be embraced as swiftly as possible by all member states. Coming to Italy, I can tell you that the disability card will give cardholders a number of benefits. Firstly, a streamlined access to Italy's wealth of cultural and artistic assets. In this respect, we have already outlined the first agreements, allowing people with disabilities, and in some cases their carers, to enter museums managed by the Ministry for Culture for free. We are also about to sign other agreements, both with public and private entities. The disability card in Italy will also aim to make life for people with disabilities easier thanks to a digital citizenship project. The card features a code. When scanned by a smartphone, this will certify the cardholder's status as a disabled person. Sensitive information, i.e. the type of disability or disability degree or grade, will be encrypted. These information will only be visible to cardholders or to authorized public officers. In the future, we want the disability cards to be recognized and integrated within other digital infrastructures and open the door to new agreements and opportunities. The Italian project's second phase aims to roll out a 100% digital disability card. This second phase is in line with Italy's overarching goal to streamline and digitize public services. Even Italy's recovery plan will include direct investments. These investments will aim to promote the inclusion of people with disabilities. Moreover, it will focus, among other aspects, on universal access to services, digitization, and accessibility. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much. Minister Erika, Stephanie.
Thank you. Now we need to move on to the next round table. I'd like to thank you all for your very important and pertinent contributions. I also like to stress this final intervention from Italy, in which they stressed the program of recovery and resilience for Italy. It's in many European countries. Portugal has the same, and this is important for us to be able to respond and promote inclusion for the disabled, whether it's a physical accessibility, job support, or whether it is a digital access. I will now move on to our second roundtable session, which will deal with the indicators. And I will give the floor to Marina Kotseva, who is the director of Eurostat, who will introduce this. I hope that you are connected, madam.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, I see myself. I hope you are able to listen to me.
We see you and we hear you.
Okay, wonderful. Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you very much to the Portuguese presidency for giving me opportunity to say a couple of introductory remarks to this very important roundtable in the conference, namely devoted to setting national disability related targets and indicators. I would like to share with you as Director General of Eurostat and working in a very close partnership with the national statistical authorities of the member states, several observations which could be inspiring for your roundtable discussion. I guess we all have to start with discussing the role of evidence, the role of data, statistics, insights which could be derived from data and statistics in the implementation of the strategy for rights of persons with disabilities. It's important to discuss what exactly will be the role of these indicators at two stages of the implementation of the strategy, as was pointed out by the State Secretary, by the way, in her intervention this morning. One stage is at the design phase, where certainly data and information are needed, so you could develop an adequate measures. And the second stage is the stage through the implementation, where regular monitoring, having targets which are measurable and indicators which allow to follow the progress is also essential. So it's very important to have this information during the process of implementation.
because it could allow for early detection of potential gaps, and also it could allow for developing some mitigation actions, adjustments on the way, so the final goal is successfully accomplished. My second point is being here a representative of the data community of official European statistics. I could understand that your first concern is whether they are reliable, comparable, timely, enough disaggregated data across the member states and globally on the situation, needs of people with and persons with disabilities. And I would like to inform you that disability statistics is high on our agenda of European statistical community. So we have ensured that disability will be integrated, will be mainstream in all important and well-established European data collections in all areas which are covered by the strategy. For example, employment, education, training, working with information technologies, poverty, social inclusion. Let me stop here. So disability will be integrated and is integrated in the surveys. So you have a solid basis for starting to develop benchmarks and indicators. So my plea is that you contact your national statistical authorities in order to have an access and to discuss how the information needs could be covered by this comparable European surveys in which your countries are participating as well. My next point is, of course, we should be ambitious and we could not be satisfied with traditional sources. Therefore, one of the challenges in the coming years for the people working on data is to tap the full potential which is provided by administrative sources, but also by sources which are the babies or the outcome of digital revolution. In that respect, we should work together and national partnerships should be established to use as much as possible the existing data sources going beyond the traditional classical surveys among population. And I would like also to draw your attention on a very big source which is becoming available in the next 2 years. This is the population census, which is taking place this year in all European countries and in the first months of the next year, where we will have very detailed data which allow to provide also information on persons with disabilities with the necessary disaggregation. And we also, my next point is that when we are discussing the indicators and when we are speaking about information, we also have to be more ambitious to close some information gaps. To mention just two, to cover better the in information sense the needs and situation of children with disabilities and needs and situation of people which live in institutional care settings. My next point is that when the benchmarks, when the indicators, the targets are established for the strategy for rights of persons with disabilities, these indicators have to be a dimension of the general indicators of key strategic documents of the European Union, like European Pillar of Social Rights, like Action Plan, European of Social Rights Action Plan, like European Skills Agenda or European Semester. So there we have established general indicators. For example, the share of employed people in the population, the share of people who have passed training. And what is important that we ensure that we have indicators also about persons with disabilities within these general indicators, that we have a decomposition not only by age, by education, by gender, but we find it a streamlined decomposition in each indicator also about people with persons with disabilities. And my final point, ladies and gentlemen, is not to forget that data, statistics, information is always a communication tool. So it's a policy-making tool, it's a decision-making tool, but it's very powerful and mighty tool for communication with citizens, and it has an enormous potential for raising awareness on the needs and the rights of persons with disabilities across Europe. It's also a way, through the information insights, to involve the persons with disabilities and their representative organizations in the EU decision making. With that several points, I think, I hope that I have inspired you to use more data and information in implementing the strategy for rights of persons with disabilities. I wish you a very inspiring discussions, and you have a full support on behalf of European Statistical Community. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada, Mariana.
Thank you very much, Mariana, for that introduction. I think that's very inspiring. And with this, using the statistics as a decision tool, communication tool, in these different dimensions that have been mentioned, sometimes we forget the importance of your capacity for mobilization of our citizens. I will now move on to the different ministers who are representing the different member states. Again, listening to their policies on this and the importance that these indicators have, whether for monitoring and also for supporting the goals that the different areas, education, accessibility, etc., have, and to allow the disabled to participate more fully on the labour market. I would like all of you, please respect your 3-minute time slot. And I confess that we have already fallen behind, but we do have to try and keep to schedule. I will now give the floor to Estonia. Signe Rizalu, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms.
You're linked up.
Thank you, Mrs. Anna. Dear Commissioner, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you, Portuguese presidency, for organizing this conference focusing on the EU strategy of persons with disabilities. And I would like to thank you, Mariana. You made a very good framing of data and indicators importance for us. Thank you for that. The strategy is an important instrument for ensuring EU policies are inclusive and fair, and helps to ensure that the rights of persons with disabilities are advanced. We welcome the Commission's plans to develop new disability indicators. On national level, we have set disability-related indicators in Estonian Welfare Development Plan, which we monitor annually. These indicators include the absolute poverty rate among people with disabilities, the impact of disability benefits on the reduction of absolute poverty, and proportion of persons with disabilities of working age receiving supporting services and 24-hour institutional care. As for targets in the area of employment and adult learning, the Estonian Welfare Development Plan has set a goal of increasing the employment rate of all working age persons with reduced work ability. To enable a good overview of data about the economics, well-being and labour market situation of persons with disabilities, the public database of Statistics Estonia has special theme on persons with disabilities. Our register of local government services and benefits is evolving. As a result of current developments, in the future we can completely say when and which services and benefits and in which combination a person with disabilities gets from local governments. This helps to set new indicators on services and service users. Currently, we are also developing an accessibility indicator that has been foreseen in our long-term strategy, Estonia 2035, to measure the accessibility of our society. On the EU level, to make the statistics and indicators related to persons with disabilities less fragmented and harmonize the developments within member states, it would be helpful if there would be increased cooperation between Eurostat and other international statistics organizations. When developing statistics and indicators, we also find it important that EU would provide financial support for the national statistics organizations in this process. Thank you.
Muito obrigada e também pelo cumprimento rigoroso do tempo.
Thank you very much and for complying with the time limit. I'll now give the floor to Croatia. Marija Pletikosa.
Dear Commissioner Dalli, dear Minister Godinho, dear ministers, I'm happy to be here with you today and exchange views and options on this important topic. The statistical data and indicators are key to monitoring the position of the persons with disabilities and developing policies that will further improve their life quality and social inclusion. Republic of Croatia has been considering options and modalities for introduction national standard for collecting and analyzing all relevant statistical data on persons with disabilities. Quality statistical data, including research on all relevant aspects of life of persons with disabilities, are condition for developing effective evidence-based practice. In 2017, Croatia has established a new legal framework for strategic planning and development that set the model for standardization of the strategic planning procedures. National Development Strategy is the key strategic document setting the long-term development priorities and serving as the basis for further elaboration of individual sectoral strategic plans. Following the adoption of the National Development Strategy 2030, Croatia has begun developing a national plan for promotion of equal opportunities for persons with disabilities for the period 2021 to 2027. The national plan will serve as the framework for implementation of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and Union of Equality Strategy for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities 2021 to 2030. One of the challenges we faced during the development of the national plan was how to define outcome and the result indicators. This is firstly because of the lack of the relevant statistical data on position and the representation of persons with disabilities in different areas of life, and especially regarding accessibility. In defining the goals of the national plan, we tried to encompass all aspects of life of persons with disabilities through 6 specific objectives focused on inclusive upbringing and education, employment, healthcare, the institutionalization and prevention of institutionalization, accessibility of public infrastructure and transport, accessibility of public contents and safety in emergency situations. These specific objectives will be achieved through coordinated action of all relevant stakeholders at national, regional, and local level. Through involvement of different stakeholders at different levels, we have also noticed the lack of the relevant statistical data and indicators because different systems use different methods to monitor progress and implementation of relevant policies. This is especially evident in the area of accessibility given its complexity and the lack of universal methodology and monitoring. Therefore, in the next period, we will pay a special attention to developing methodology for assessing and monitoring accessibility of buildings. However, it remains open to see how and in what manner to monitor accessibility of information and content, digital accessibility, accessible sport, recreation, tourism information. I look forward to hearing your experience and the approaches as well as following the development at EU level. Thank you for your attention.
Muito obrigada, Marisha. Vou passar a palavra então agora à Lituânia.
Now I will give Lithuania the floor. Justina Yakstien.
Hello, dear Presidency, Commissioners, dear colleagues. Thank you very much for the conference. Actually, first of all, would like to thank Mariana Kotseva for the presentation. I'm really fascinated with the presented indicators and really looking forward to use more comparative statistics in our strategies and monitoring systems. Of course, Lithuania welcomes the adoption of the strategy for the rights of persons with disabilities, and we really believe that the strategy is comprehensive and responding to all the key areas that are important for people with disabilities. Of course, they have the right to participate equally in all areas of life, and we must do our best eliminating those limiting obstacles. Lithuania recently adopted a new strategic document, which is called the National Development Plan for 2021 and 2030, which is a middle-term planning document setting concrete impact indicators in all public spheres where we must reach for change. And this plan, we have set and will use indicators as tools for monitoring the situation of persons with disabilities. Some examples of our national plan indicators are, for example, share of employed working age disabled population. The other example is share of disabled pupils in general secondary education, which we're reaching in 2030 to have not less than 90% share of disabled pupils in general secondary education. That means that we are moving towards to school for all implementation. People with this, and another indicator is people with disabilities life quality index, which contains a set of indicators and will be measured in municipal level. In Lithuania, we have 60 municipalities and the life quality index is really different. The other indicator is information and environmental level of accessibility, which is again a set of indicators. And it is expected, of course, to increase 3 times in 2030. In the strategical planning system, we have a hierarchy of impact, result, and product indicators. So impact indicators that I mentioned will split to result and product indicators in lower level strategical documents, which are sectoral development programs and specific implementation measures. And they are essentially evidence-based, emphasizing differences in territorial, socioeconomical situation, age-related, and other differences. Definitely we support the idea of establishing indicators to better reflect the situation of people with disabilities on labor market, in particular the relevance of their qualifications and skills to the needs of labor market. We aim to shape policies that change the situation of people with disabilities. So it is important to make evidence-based decisions, and our indicators and statistics and data could be good evidence for decisions. And we will use indicators to monitor the impact in general. It is very important for us to establish qualitative indicators and responsibly assess the current situation and in prospective change. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada, Lituânia. Passarei agora a palavra a...
Thank you, Lithuania. Now, Ramona Petravica.
Thank you, Presidency. Dear participants, I'm speaking on behalf of Minister Ramona Petravica, who is currently at the Cabinet of Ministers meeting. We truly appreciate the emphasis that the Portuguese presidency has put on disability policies. The themes of the discussion today are essential for the development of targeted and well-evaluated policy actions aimed at the actual needs of individuals. It is crucial to carry out regular monitoring by assessing the impact of existing policies on persons with disabilities and planning further policy actions. We must ensure that the available support and enabling services reach the primary goal, meaning that persons with disabilities receive support that meets their needs and promotes social inclusion and participation in all spheres of life. First of all, we need to set clear national targets and activities contributing to their achievement in line with the national situation. Second, we need to identify the way of measuring progress and social impact. And finally, we should be aware that we cannot meaningfully measure the efficiency of every activity. For this reason, it is sometimes difficult to identify all the unmet needs. From a longer-term perspective, we should consider what kind of indicators could facilitate the identification of unmet needs and consequently the introduction of better targeted support measures and services. Latvia is currently working on a social protection planning document for the next 7 years. We want to underline that this work includes broad consultation with civil society. It allows to evaluate better how the situation has changed over the years and what should be further improved in the best interests of persons with disabilities. Our national strategy sets targets and defines activities to promote efficient and targeted policy measures, covering the needs of persons with disabilities in different areas. According to our national challenges, we have set policy targets, for example, for employment of working age person with disabilities to reach 45%, currently 39%, and recipients of community-based services in municipalities to reach 90% of all social service recipients, currently 87%. I want to conclude by stressing that we all understand the importance of comparative data, allowing us to evaluate national policies and their impact. Here, Eurostat plays a key role. However, we have some concerns about initiatives leading to excessively broad set of social indicators at the European Union level. Objective national differences might have an impact on the meaningfulness of comparisons. Thank you.
Muito obrigada. Eu vou passar agora a palavra à Polónia.
The floor now goes to Poland. Paweł Wdowik.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to speak on this assembly. I would like to point out the solutions which are now implemented in Poland for guaranteeing the full participation of persons with disabilities in social and professional life. In February, on February 16th, our government was adopted the first strategy in Poland for persons with disabilities. This strategy is to show the directions till 2030 in all aspects of social policy, and to guarantee the persons with disabilities that they have the full right to participate and play roles as the independent actors in public life. It was already said here that monitoring indicators are crucial for achieving the goals which we establish. Otherwise, we can stop only by talking about things. And that's why our strategy has a lot of indicators for each activity, monitoring indicators. We have the main indicator we established, we decided to choose for measuring the changes in situation of citizens with disabilities is the participation in the labor market, which currently is on the level about 28.8%, and we expect to achieve 45% by 2030, with the middle monitoring indicator 35% for 2025. The strategy has 8 major priorities, and for each of them, such precise indicator was created, which will allow our government to really monitor how the situation of persons with disabilities is changing during the years. For example, for the first priority, independent living, the indicator we chose is the level of persons who can permanently use the personal assistant. And the 2018 year, which was chosen as the base year for measuring and comparing the achievements, had this indicator on the level 0, because we didn't have such a system at that moment at all. And we expect to achieve at least 40,000 persons having a personal assistant working permanently for them by the year 2030. In the following areas, the other 7 priorities established by the strategy, we also define such indicators which are to allow us to measure precisely measure the progress we make in the major fields. And at the end, let me point the following, that all these things we are talking about and European strategy, which we are talking about, national strategies, are to achieve the one most important goal, to give persons with disabilities the right to be independent participants of social and political and professional life. It's not to create a system of benefits, privileges, or anything like that, but we try to change the life of European society in such a way that our citizens with disabilities are equal and have the same rights as all the other persons living here. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada, Pavel. Vou passar a palavra agora à Eslováquia.
Thank you, Pavel. Slovakia. Sonia
Gaborkakova, and I'm sorry if I have not pronounced your name properly.
Minister, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank the Portuguese presidency for organizing this roundtable. One of the key tasks of the Ministry of Labour, Social Affairs and Family of the Slovak Republic is the implementation of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which is reflected in the strategic document called the National Programme for the Development of Living Conditions of Persons with Disabilities for 2021 to 2030. The fundamental objective of this instrument is to guarantee progress in the protection of the rights of persons with disabilities recognized by the Convention and the advancement of their application via specific tasks and measures. The Ministry, as the main focal point for the implementation of the Convention, actively cooperates with the representatives of central state administration and public administration bodies, as well as persons with disabilities, to incorporate new measures into the national programme at its subsequent update. The Ministry strives to further streamline the tools for the integration of persons with severe disabilities, with an emphasis on their interpretation within the boundaries set up by the selected provisions of the Convention, as well as to achieve targeted financial contributions to compensate for social consequences of severe disabilities. The Ministry continuously fulfills its obligations arising from the government manifesto by improving the provision of social services and the creation of new social services with a focus on individual needs of the recipient. The Ministry is currently drafting a new Act on Social Services to be submitted by 2023, which, in addition to the linkage with long-term health and social care systems, will introduce a change in the financing of the social services through personal budgets of recipients. Our Ministry actively cooperates with the Ministry of Health in fulfilling the obligation to modify the systems of long-term health and social care, including its financing. The Ministry is also undertaking steps to adjust and unify the assessment system, which becomes more effective and will enable a comprehensive evaluation of the needs of a person in need of long-term care. The Ministry actively drafts and submits national strategic documents which determine the future policies of the Slovak Republic in the field of quality increase and development of social services, with a focus on individual needs of the client. Thank you.
Muito obrigada, Sonia. Vou passar a palavra agora à Espanha. Ignacio.
Thank you, Sonia. Now the floor goes to Spain. Nacho Álvarez, Spain.
Hola, buenos días a todos y a todas.
Good afternoon to all. It is a pleasure for me to be able to participate here at this round table and to present our speech. It is a pleasure to be with you today. So the minister is now participating in the Council of Ministers, and they will be approving some points to improve access to public buildings, to sports facilities, and others for disabled individuals. Spain wishes to fully include persons with disabilities, and they want to allow them to exercise their full rights. Spain has ratified some international conventions, such as the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and it is within that framework that our government is going to approve its new strategy to include and especially empower persons with disabilities. The process will also be preceded by a social dialogue inspired by the convention. Spain is committed to fulfilling the criteria of the Disability Rights Strategy 2021-2030 and as well as the Sustainable Development Goals 2030. We want to align our strategies with democratic values. So first of all, we are going to have a plan of action for Spain, and it will support the strategy established in 2019. The European Parliament's directive of 2019-882 will be integrated into our strategy as well. We have also launched a program initiated by the European Union, and we have invited experts from the high-level expert group on disabilities. Policies in Europe have been launched under this aegis. When we signed our commitment to the Sustainable Development Goals, we decided to include aspects on disabilities as well. This our new strategy will be more active in some sectors. We want to focus more on mental health as well as on mental health problems and disabilities. We want to establish an early warning system and provide more support. The equal opportunities and non-discrimination for all are a priority to us, and we wish to identify and fight against all forms of discrimination, including racism and the like. Moreover, non-discrimination and for men and women will be one of our focuses. We have a draft law as well that aims to allow persons with disabilities to have the same rights in front of the law. We want equal opportunities, non-discrimination, gender equality to be respected for all those in our country. Thank you. Thank you, Ignacio. Now, Austria.
Hello, Alexander.
Vielen Dank, sehr geehrte Frau Vorsitzende.
Thank you very much, Chair. Unfortunately, the federal minister is not available today to discuss the disability rights strategy, but we wish to thank the Portuguese presidency for having brought this matter to the table. We feel it is important to bring persons with disabilities into the dialogue as active participants in the dialogue. Austria has focused a great deal on the improvement of living conditions for persons with disabilities. So first of all, we have focused on social security benefits as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we also wish to make some extra efforts in other areas. So in the COVID-19 has severely impacted employment for all people in Austria. And the persons with disabilities have been particularly affected by this. They find it disproportionately difficult to find jobs and to enter the job market. And measures have been implemented in Austria in order to prevent problems for persons with disabilities in the world of employment. Moreover, Austria now provides some additional financial support to persons with disabilities due to COVID-19. And we also have aimed to prevent job losses for persons with disabilities, and we feel that this has been fairly successful. The COVID-19 pandemic's impact will be long-term. So for the upcoming years, Austria is planning to invest to increase the aid provided to 130 million. Several projects have been launched, such as support projects for the young for a value of 2 million, and we will also be offering an additional 50 million in funds, support funds. Other funds will also be implemented. And in terms of integration on the labour market, several initiatives have been launched to cover many persons with disabilities. We have also invested we will also be investing large amounts, up to 296 million, in order to promote employment. It is also important to highlight that the government aims to improve the therapy provided to 125,000 individuals. The needs of individuals with disabilities will be taken into account to a far greater extent. There are political strategies such as the implementation of the disability rights strategy through national programs. The UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities was ratified by Austria, and Austria has made a lot of effort in order to ensure that the rights of persons with disabilities are respected. In the last multi-annual program, We have focused a lot on the rights of persons with disabilities and the improvements that were required. We are also moving towards a scientific evaluation of the programs, and we wish to reach our aims. What are the results? The results of the evaluations of the disability rights strategy will also be carried out for the 2021-2030 period. Of course, the progress made under this strategy will be regularly evaluated. The new action plan will take into account the evaluations. Once the evaluations have taken place, the ministries will reassess their responsibilities under the action plan in order to improve it. Austria aims to sustainably improve its action plans on the basis of quantitative and measurable indicators. I do hope that we have been able to tell you a little bit more about the measures undertaken in Austria, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much
for
your contributions.
We've got a number of indicators.
Thank you for telling us about concrete indicators and objectives.
And implemented by them, and this will
it is important to ensure that we move from the written word to action in order to improve the life quality and equal opportunities of persons with disabilities.
And also,
it is important that the instruments, objectives and the like be measurable
to be able to respond to needs
so that we can ensure the efficiency of the measures in place
that are underway in the member states. And it's a tremendous opportunity for all of us to cooperate.
And it is important within the context of the recovery plans to be able to take these indicators into account as well.
I would like to
thank you very much for all your contributions during this roundtable.
We are now going to move on to the last item on our agenda. There's been a slight change in the order.
Change the order a little bit.
The German
Unfortunately, Rolf Schmattenberg
needs to
going to have to be brought forward in the agenda because he is going to have to leave before the end of the conference. So he will be taking the floor
social
now.
Policies, and the topic will then be introduced
so
after
the order has changed. Rolf, the floor is yours.
You have the floor, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, dear Anna, thank you very much for this very kind of flexibility. First of all, I would like to thank the Portuguese presidency for today's conference. I'm very pleased that we are talking about measures to improve the policies for people with disabilities in Europe. This is, as many have said, in line with the objectives and the rules of the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of People with Disabilities, especially in the pandemic, when vulnerable groups are under particular pressure, as was just also raised by my colleague from Austria. All member states are facing similar challenges, and all people with disability in all European nations are also facing similar challenges. The European exchange about good solutions can only be helpful. Therefore, I welcome the planned European platform, which can give us new ideas for our work, and I want to thank the Commission for this initiative. It is important to find a good format to improve the exchange between member states and the Commission on the one hand, and to involve people with disabilities and their organizations immediately and directly the other hand. This will set a good framework to develop good policies and to achieve active participation of differently enabled people. They are the best advocates, they are the best experts of their own interests. And I expect this will actually intensify and deepen the exchange of experience and best practices, which we have had already. And I can confirm that from the German perspective, this is a very fruitful source for our German policy for differently enabled people. Just presently, we are implementing the European Accessibility Act, and I'm sure for us it's a push forward to accessibility, which based only on a national discussion, I'm very doubtful we would have achieved. So a lot of thanks to this platform, to all the colleagues, to this exchange, because this pushed us forward. I would like to broaden our view a little bit. I'm convinced that the participation and involvement of people with disability is essential for an inclusive and democratic society. Democracy and inclusion, this goes hand in hand. In this sense, we should examine all possibilities to achieve more equal opportunities. We took up this issue of participation last year during the German Council presidency at a digital event with about more than 1,000 participants. End of November, we discussed how to enable more effective participation in Europe and how we can give a voice to the ideas and legitimate demands of people with disabilities. We are very happy to see that the topic is ambitiously taken on by the Portuguese presidency. I support the call for a disability commissioner or representative at EU level. In Germany, we have had and we still have very good experience with the Office of the Federal Government Commissioner for matters relating to persons with disabilities. I would welcome an open discussion on this matter in the future. Thank you all very much for your attention. Thank you all for this very fruitful discussion. And once again, Anna, thank you very much for the flexibility of the Portugal presidency in my behalf. Bye.
Muito obrigada, Rolf.
Thank you very much, Rolf. Now we will go to Sophie Cluzel, Secretary of State for Persons and Disabilities, French. Again, we're being flexible to allow people to participate earlier than planned. Sophie? Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the Portuguese presidency for organizing this excellent conference on a major subject in our societies. Thank you all. It's been very interesting to talk to all of you. And to, I think, looking at the model that we had in 2019 and the commitments at the time that we undersigned, and this is now being implemented from up to 2030. And this is going to be very important to endorse all of this for the disabled. Of course, all members, I think, listening to those and those who have their rights to be listened to, we have time to reflect, and we always ask, is our program going to be accessible to all the disabled? This is why the president of the French Republic, Monsieur Macron, gives priority, and the aim is to have the Secretary of State for this matter to be close to the president, to look to all public policies and the specificities of the disabled. It is important for all. There is a roadmap to see how this can be rolled out, functioning, and remembering the normal rights of all to be accessible to the disabled as well. To take things a bit further, the cooperation and coordination that we are dealing with is a common right. We're working on this as much as possible. It is excellent for the European Commission to have taken this initiative and to add to a dossier for the disabled in Europe. And this, again, allowing everyone to have a say in this. It is important to consider the disabled within the heart of Europe and to be a little bit more global in our vision from all aspects of the life of the disabled. It's not a question of countries competing. It is simply mutually enriching what we are doing in good practice. In France, we have been taking integrated steps. We're looking at this 360-degree view because 360 degrees is important, covering everyone and also covering the system throughout. It is an appeal to 360, 360, 360. This will mean that all persons can indeed can actually conduct their lives and follow their dreams, because again, there will be covered in the same way as all citizens. The disabled will be at the front line of this, but all stakeholders are working in common. That is the communes, the heads of companies, the cultural and sports directors, all are involved. And again, if you take, how can I take my child to a leisure center? How can I take my child to a sports field? And this will allow for job coaching to be implemented. And this will allow us to work at 360 degrees. The objective of the platform, which is, of course, we're very fortunate that this is a system that covers the whole chain from start to finish. And I really think that we should be able to mobilize very well if we follow the 360-degree availability. And so I think you can certainly. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Sophie. We are all together in this. We're all together in this, working together. Now I'll give the floor to Katarina Ivanovic, Director, DG Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion from the European Commission, who is going to give us an idea of the work in hand within the European Union on the disabled. Also, Katarina, I'd like to thank you and all your team for the support you've given in organizing this initiative. Katarina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Minister Godinho. Thank you also the State Secretary Antunes and all the colleagues from the Portuguese team who really, we have such an excellent cooperation, and I'm just so happy that we managed to have this conference. It's extremely important, it's so timely, and this is like a debut of our strategy, if I can put it in such a words. Dear ministers, dear participants, I'm also very happy that that our German colleagues and the French minister spoke before me, because you could see now in my short presentation how we envisaged this disability platform and why and what we had in mind. And just to tell you that it's beyond honor to participate in this excellent conference and to contribute with some technical explanations to the discussion. And our belief is exactly as my colleagues before pointed, that only by joint European and national efforts we can deliver on the expectations that persons with disabilities have in the EU and beyond. The topic that I'm going to present is about really how to work together and how to improve the lives of the persons with disabilities. In order to support the implementation of the strategy as well as the national disability strategies, and as written in our strategy, it says that the Commission will, in 2021, reinforce the governance structure and establish the disability platform, which means quite soon. The new platform is going to replace the existing high-level group on disability. And I'm sure that you are asking yourself, so what will be new? To put it in the nutshell, the Commission will upscale the status of the group. The Commission and the platform are going to adjust the work of the platform, and we are also going to increase the visibility of the overall disability platform. Let me just briefly reflect on few key points proposed in the strategy. The new platform should have the status of the formal expert group, and this means that this formal expert group should be based upon the decision by the Commission. At the core of the group should be the national UNCRPD focal points, and also Commission as the EU focal point, who will chair the meetings. Very important element of the disability platform is the civil society, namely the representatives of the organizations of persons with disabilities, social service providers organizations. They should continue to be fully involved, and also we plan to involve the other relevant stakeholders on the need basis, or depending on the work program of the disability platform. Our intention is also to work, as I mentioned just a second ago, on the basis of the annual work program, that we commonly agree priority topics, and that we commonly agree on the implementation of the strategy. As you know, the strategy has a very clear timeline, I would dare to say. It's one of the rare strategies that have really who is responsible, how and by when, also with which resources. The platform would also contribute to the monitoring of the strategy, and will provide an input to the 2024 report of the strategy, when we will reflect the progress of its implementation, and if necessary, we are going to suggest the different updates to its objectives and actions. The platform is also going to be used as a forum to exchange the UN assessment of member states' implementation of the UNCRPD, and will facilitate various mutual learning events and collection of good practices by supporting really in this manner the policy development in line with the UNCRPD. Also, a new online presence of the Commission on the Commission website is going to bring together all the information of its meetings, activities, good practices, and the dashboard monitoring the implementation of actions in the strategy. And I believe this is a very important element. The dashboard for monitoring the implementation will be visible to all those who are interested in the disability files in any way. So the new structure provides an opportunity to really deepen the exchange between the member states and also between the member states and the Commission. And the new way to work in combination with the renewed online presence will make the work of the strategy more visible for the whole public. So thank you very much for your attention. Your questions and remarks are only going to feed into our reflection on the best ways how to work together and how to contribute in achieving the rights of persons with disabilities fully implemented and fully respected throughout the EU. Thank you very much, Minister.
Muito obrigada.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Catarina, for that explanation, which is also the opening to this platform so that we can respond to the needs of the platform. It's also very important for our information. I now have the names of the speakers. First of all, we have the Minister from Belgium, Karine Lallieu.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Ministre.
Thank you very much, Secretary of State, Minister. Thank you all for organizing this conference. As Minister dealing with the social aspects and the disabled, this of course is part of the European agenda. And on Belgium, I would like to link with this ambition, and this was the case in 2004. We are looking to all our citizens, male and female, throughout Europe, so that we can implement this famous European pillar, social pillar. For the disabled, they were left out in the past, and I don't hesitate to say that, but that is the Europe that would upset me. We must cover the rights of the disabled. Madam, you are aware of this, and thank you very much for your presentation on the future European Disability Platform. This is a body that will be able to serve as a meeting point between member states and also the Commission, and also serves to better coordinate our actions. We should support everything on our own reciprocal experience and also on the work done at high level on the disabled, as well as intensified by our own cooperation. And in fact, the social institutions are today strong and also weak. Strong because they are again looking to positive and solid values, but weak because they are under heavy pressure and there are crises that they have to meet, and we know about this. If the European platform for the disabled can actually resist the pressures and find solutions that will be positive for the disabled, then I think this would be a strong union. And I think the consistency of European governance will help, and also the social side. For years, the social aspect is something that is an investment. It is not a cost, it is an investment. And certainly for the disabled, all that we can invest in disabled policies or disability policies is going to lead to positive results. Also, the strategy should not be an isolated program. We must continue to pay attention to the integration of the disabled into all European initiatives, and in particular into the framework of the inclusive relaunch. And the disabled are part of our part of our plans, and also for the coming 6 months. Very quickly, I will reassure that I'm going to share with you 4 major points. The first is the active implication of the representative organizations of the disabled. This implication for me is crucial. From my own experience, open and direct collaboration at all levels is the most beneficial. There is no excuse not for doing this, even if sometimes we're short of time. Just to give you a Belgian example, very recently in managing the COVID crisis, we have set up a task force for the more vulnerable. We have had direct dialogue with civil society, with the administrations, and myself at political level. This has allowed us to identify very quickly and to deal with the specific problems. We have been fortunate in dealing with the disabled for the associations to be well organized and organized very effectively at European level and also in Belgium. This certainly is something that we will all benefit from. The platform should also, as part of its mission, is to follow the European policy for the rights of the disabled. If we, from the round table, I think we do understand the need for monitoring and clear objectives. Furthermore, one of the matters that could be reinforced is interaction between the national strategy and the new European strategy. We should be adopting an apprenticeship, a mutual apprenticeship. This will stimulate exchanges between member states. And with this in view, then I can say very quickly that we are now preparing our own strategy for the disabled 2021-2030, as well as an action plan corresponding to current legislation, that is, and the current government, which goes up to 2021. The platform will support us in setting up this plan. Thirdly, launching the European platform for the disabled must be accompanied by stepping up provisions at European level for implementing the Convention for the disabled. Continuing rich and again based on human rights, we should be able to stay at the forefront of respecting rights for the disabled. The European Union, as a party to the UN Convention, has a role to play, as has each member state. The fundamental provision of the Convention is at the heart of the strategy and of all European strategies. And lastly, to follow this all up, to make it practical and to consider how the platform functions with annual work programs. And this is what you were speaking about. So I, of course, endorse what has been said to all that backs the participation of the disabled. Better practices are required based on the indicators for the disabled. This is important for, again, automatically respecting rights and avoiding any disrespect or leaving anyone behind. During the work, we know we've got a lot more ahead of us, but Belgium will be ambitious in dealing with this. We will be ready and enthusiastic so that we can make our society more inclusive. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Karine. Now I'm going to give the floor to Bulgaria, Adriana Stolmenova.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, let me express my satisfaction with the timely organization of this conference. In its context, I would like to present the progress made by Bulgaria in the process of implementing the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Bulgaria, as a party to the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, through its policy continues its work to achieve one of the main objectives of the Convention, namely to promote the strengthening of the inclusive environment for persons with disabilities in a way that allows its entire implementation. The main focus of the state policy on the rights of people with disabilities is to create the conditions and opportunities for providing targeted, policy supportive and incentive measures for people with disabilities, which especially in the current conditions will have a beneficial impact on improving the quality of life and preventing social inclusion. In this regard, Bulgaria is strongly committed to the rights of people with disabilities and their inclusion in society on an equal basis with other people. Bulgarian legislation provides legal guarantees for equal opportunities for all, enable protection against all forms of violence, non-admissions of harassment and discrimination. All national policies related to the implementation of the Convention and other international treaties in this field shall follow a human rights-based approach and shall be developed in close consultation with the persons with disabilities and their national representative organizations. In line with the obligation of fully implement the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, several new and key documents have been drafted and adopted, namely National Strategy for People with Disabilities 2021-2030. In accordance with the current national legislation and the horizontal nature of the policy of the rights of people with disabilities and all sectoral policies that should be involved in providing support to people with disabilities. A new national strategy for people with disability was elaborated and adopted in 2020 for the period 2021-2030. The National Strategy for People with Disabilities 2021-2030 is an expression of the political and social commitment of the government to provide support to Bulgarian citizens with disabilities. The strategy will be implemented until 2030 through action plans that include activities, responsible bodies, financial resources, and indicators, taking into account the horizontal nature of the policy of the rights of people with disabilities. The implementation of the activities included in the plans under the respective measures will be carried out by the institutions and organizations according to their competencies in order to achieve the expected results. The second time, action plan for the implementation of the final recommendations to the Republic of Bulgaria issued by the United Nations Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. In connection with the expiry of the previous action plan of Republic of Bulgaria for the implementation of the Union Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities 2015-2020, a new action plan for the implementation of the final recommendations to the Republic of Bulgaria issued by the United Nations Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities was prepared and adopted. The new action plan aims through consistent policy and appropriate measures to respond to the commitment and recommendation of the UN Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities by contributing to the better protection and ensuring opportunities for active inclusion in public life of people with disabilities. Bulgaria highlights the importance of ensuring the effective participation of people with disabilities in all initiatives to guarantee their rights set out in the European Strategy on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. The implementation of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, as well as the European Strategy, will ensure the creation of the necessary conditions for the realization for all rights of people with disabilities. Thank you.
Muito obrigada, Adriana.
Thank you very much, Adriana. And now we'll move on to Sweden, the last member state to take part in our round table. You have the floor, madam. Sir, sorry.
Muito obrigado. Thank you, Chair. Dear ministers, state secretaries, and participants. The Swedish government would like to thank the Portuguese presidency for organizing this important and timely high-level conference. It is an important opportunity to highlight the newly adopted EU strategy for the rights of persons with disabilities. To discuss together with experts, stakeholders, and member states, this is really important. We welcome that the European Commission adopted a new long-term strategy with the aim to strengthen the rights of persons with disability. We also welcome that the new strategy builds upon the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. The strategy contains an ambitious set of actions and flagship initiatives in different areas with the objective to ensure the full enjoyment of human rights of persons with disability. The strategy can be a strategic tool for both the EU and the member states to further and strengthen the rights of persons with disabilities. Our national disability policy has the UN Convention as a starting point. It aims to achieve equal living conditions and full participation in society for persons with disabilities in a society based on diversity, in line also with the EU strategy. With reference to the proposal to establish a disability platform, the Swedish government supports the initiative to create a disability platform that will replace the current high-level group on disability. This will create a knowledge base of different relevant competences that can share knowledge and good practices with the aim to implement the UN Convention. To have a broad representation of relevant stakeholders, such as persons with disabilities, through the representative organizations is crucial. The mandate and function of the platform, as well as the mandate of the representatives, are also important things to consider. Depending on the mandate of the representatives, the platform could be an effective instrument that could support member states and the EU institutions in their aim to implement the UN Convention. We hope that the platform will be an efficient and accessible tool for cooperation and support in our efforts to promote independent living and full inclusion and participation in the community of persons with disabilities. Let us ensure that this becomes an important step for the European community to welcome and make place for all its inhabitants, with or without disabilities. Thank you.
Tusen tack, Niklas.
Tusen tack. Thank you very much to all for the important contributions that you made. And thank you for the motivation that you demonstrated, as well as to your commitments to the strategy. This, of course, is done now with the support of civil society organizations. I do hope that we will indeed make a big difference to the daily lives of all our citizens. So thank you very much for your active participation. And
Good luck with all your work.
Para nos transmitir a mensagem das
Thank
organizações.
you, Minister. Now, to transmit the message of the organizations dealing with persons with disabilities, I will now give the floor to Ioannis Vardakasansis on behalf of the EESC, the representation of the and the representation of persons with disabilities in Greece. The Convention of 1993, it is a movement that focuses on the rights of persons with disabilities. In 1999, well, since 1999, Mr. Ioannis has been a representative that represents 100,000 people with disabilities in Europe. It is a member of the International Alliance for Persons with Disabilities. Thank you. Now the floor goes to Mr. Ioannis Vardakastanis. Thank you.
Honorable Minister of Labour, Solidarity and Social Security of Portugal, Honorable Ministers, on behalf of the European Economic and Social Committee, and of the European Disability Forum, I would like to thank the Portuguese presidency for giving us the opportunity to discuss in details the European Disability Rights Strategy 2021-2030. It is of paramount importance to live up to the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, Article 4.3, that entails the guiding motto of the disability movement, nothing about us without us, which means involving persons with disabilities in the preparation, implementation, and monitoring of the policies affecting them. It is a legal obligation and, more importantly, a guarantee of success in improving the situation of more than 100 million persons with disabilities who live in Europe. When the European Commission, the current European Commission, took office in 2019, we did not know if a new disability strategy was going to be prepared. It was the very active role and campaigning of the disability movement, of the European Economic and Social Committee and other stakeholders that made clear the need for a more ambitious set of objectives and actions concerning the rights of persons with disabilities, to which the European Union committed to by ratifying the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. We do appreciate the leadership of Commissioner for Equality, Helena Dalli, and of the European Commission's services in involving organizations of persons with disabilities and other stakeholders in the preparation of the strategy. And we do hope that the Council and all member states establish a more structured and continuous way of cooperation with us and with national organizations of persons with disabilities in the finalization of the Council's conclusions about the strategy and the implementation of all the actions which depend on decisions and policy making at the member state level. As I said yesterday, a strategy is only worth if it creates change in the real world, in the living conditions of persons with disabilities in Europe. We need the political commitment of all EU institutions and of all EU member states. We need to allocate resources to implement it. We need a robust monitoring mechanism to supervise it. And once again, you must make persons with disabilities part of this whole process at European and national level. Leadership and interinstitutional coordination are fundamental to implement the strategy. Therefore, we call the Council to join the disability platform and to swiftly appoint its disability coordinator as foreseen in the strategy. The disability coordinator in the Council should serve as the CRPD focal point as suggested to the European Union in the concluding observations of the CRPD Committee in 2015. We need the Council to play a stronger role in defining policies in line with the Convention, not only those targeting persons with disabilities, but to mainstream the Convention throughout the co-legislative work of the Council. We need the Council disability coordinator to be publicly nominated and to work hand in hand with the disability movement and within the disability platform, along with the other EU institutions and all member states. We must all discuss and commit to actions on disability issues at the highest political level, as we are doing today here. Inclusive and transparent decision-making should be the new normal. In this vein, we believe the Council should call upon the Commission to initiate the work to update the EU Declaration of Competencies with regards to matters governed by the CRPD as recommended by the CRPD Committee in 2015 and included in the strategy. As mentioned before, allocating funding to implement the actions of the strategy is of paramount importance. The historic EU budget, including the Recovery and Resilience Facility, needs to be earmarking specifically to investing in actions at national level, addressing many barriers highlighted within the text of the strategy. This particularly case for tackling issues that are directly linked with the COVID-19 pandemic, which has been catastrophic for persons with disabilities. Investing in independent living in the community instead of segregated settings. Investing in an inclusive labor market, an inclusive education, and the possibility for persons with disabilities to participating in all aspects of life are areas that will require the political commitment and the necessary investment by the European Union and at national level. Funding will also be needed to guarantee a real impact of some of the key flagship initiatives of the strategy. For example, the Accessible EU Center from the European Economic and Social Committee, we called for the creation of a new EU agency with the necessary resources and expertise to support member states in the implementation of all the recent accessibility legislation adopted at the EU level during the previous strategy. It will be, therefore, very crucial that Accessible EU Center does have human and financial resources to carry out these tasks. Likewise, we do believe that the EU monitoring framework for the CRPD needs to be properly supported. Another very key element I highlighted yesterday has been that we need binding legislation to anchor the initiatives proposed in the strategy, very firmly to do so in the legal EU framework. As the evaluation of the previous strategy has shown, legislation produces the best results. Having legislation as a basis of, for example, the European Disability Card will ensure that each implementation is harmonized across the EU member states. And that's why we propose and we urge that in the conclusions of the member states, of the Council for the strategy, a proposal for a regulation for the European Disability Card should be included. The Disability Card is one of the most celebrated flagship initiatives in the strategy and proves again the added value of involving organizations of persons with disabilities as, and we need to remember this proposal was made long ago by one of the members of the European Disability Forum. We need to work very strongly and very consistently. We cannot allow anymore persons with disabilities not to be able to move freely as anyone else in the European Union. We have more difficulties in moving to another member state to study or to work. We need the EU disability strategy to ensure the mutual recognition of disability across the EU, and this is why the strong legal basis is needed. Legislation is also indispensable to protect the rights and lives of persons with disabilities. We have witnessed dreadful cases of human rights violations during the COVID-19 pandemic. However, these do not seem very relevant to the European legal framework. We ask the Council to unblock immediately the 13-year sleeping proposal for the horizontal directive for equal treatment. This is of paramount importance. The EU should not end this decade without a non-discrimination horizontal legislation. Many of the human rights violations I refer to are perpetuated against women and girls with disabilities. We feel the strategy should have had a stronger gender perspective and should have included more targeted actions towards women and girls with disabilities. I would like to call on the Council to consider taking actions to include very strong provisions and very strong commitments in the Council resolution and conclusions in June 14 and 15. Persons with disabilities, through our representative organizations, social partners, civil society organizations, other stakeholders, are ready to support. We are ready to support, to campaign both at European and national level to turn words into deeds. We need strong political will, we need determination, we need funding, we need leadership from those of you who are the decision makers. We need to make the European project, the European Union of this decade, free of discrimination, exclusion, and poverty for the 100 million persons with disabilities. Thank you very much for your attention.
Agradecemos a sua intervenção.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Now, the Portuguese presidency will be giving the conclusions of this meeting as well as the Commission. The floor will be given to Justice Court from the European Commission.
Yeah, dear Minister Mendes Godinho, dear other ministers, participants to this conference, I'm really honored to be here with you to mark the conclusion of this important two-day high-level event on disability. And I would really like to thank the Portuguese presidency and you, Minister, in particular, for organizing this and for bringing so many people together to discuss this very important issue. I can assure you that from the side of the European Commission, your reflections and considerations will help us enormously in our work to implement, together with you, the strategy for the rights of the persons with disabilities. Your engagement in this work is, of course, crucial to make the strategy a real success and to bring tangible improvements on the ground for the people with disabilities. And that's why we're doing it. And I was very much also motivated by what Mr. Vardakakis said just now before me. In this concluding session, I'd like to offer you a few further food for thought before your virtual return home. In my concluding remarks, I will raise three issues very briefly. First of all, a few words about the EU added value of the strategy. Secondly, its link with the European Pillar of Social Rights Action Plan. And thirdly, more broadly, the importance of this event in raising awareness on the topic of disability. So first, the EU added value of the strategy. Now, the strategy is the European Union's main contribution to an impetus, both at EU and EU national level, to improve the lives of the people with disabilities. And to also, secondly, implement the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And you discussed both items in quite some depth yesterday and again today. The strategy that we put forward focuses primarily on areas where the EU action is needed and where we can make the change, the added value. We will continue to support member states in ensuring accessibility, which is of course a precondition for basically everything, for independent living, for employment, for inclusive education, all of which were discussed yesterday. This is I think the key element we need, accessibility, to ensure and improve autonomy and equality for people with disabilities. The European Accessibility Act is of course a key milestone in this area. And the European Commission will launch next year a specific resource center, which we've currently called Accessible EU, to increase the coherence in the accessibility policies and also to facilitate access to relevant knowledge, to inform people better about what the Accessibility Act, which is quite a complicated piece of legislation, actually does for them. We will also step up our efforts in the area of employment, where the European Union, I think, can contribute a lot. Nowadays, as you will know, only half of all the persons with disabilities are in employment, and this really needs to change. That's why we're asking member states to set targets to increase the employment rate of people with disabilities. EU funds can also support independent living, including transition from institutions to community-based living. Persons with disabilities should enjoy, of course, all the rights on an equal basis with others, including when moving to another member state. The cross-border dimension of disability is, I think, an essential point that we flagged in the strategy. And I was again very happy to listen to Mr. Vardakakis, what he said on this point. These issues are really important, and we need to make a big change there during the duration of the strategy. That's indeed why the Commission will propose the creation of a true European disability card that builds on the experience of the ongoing pilot project that you've heard about earlier this morning. Let me then also end by mentioning a few more concrete examples of EU added value, which I just mentioned. The objectives of the strategy and the added value can only materialize and can only be reached through a coordinated action at national and EU level. We need a very strong commitment from the member states. And this is why the strategy calls on you to take action in the areas under your competence. And these are actually most of the actions. And in line with the UN Convention, which all of you, all the member states have signed up to. Secondly, the links with the action plan for the European Pillar of Social Rights. The disability strategy was adopted together and on the same day with the European Pillar of Social Rights action plan. And this was not a coincidence. The action plan proposes the inclusion of the disability employment gap as a headline indicator in the social scoreboard. The two exercises are very, very much linked. The disability dimension of labor market policies should really become an integral part of the policy monitoring toolbox that we have in place to measure member states' progress towards the principles of the Pillar of Social Rights. And here, of course, the most important principles are number 3, on equal opportunities, and number 17, on the inclusion of people with disabilities. The Pillar Action Plan sets 3 ambitious targets for the EU with a 2030 horizon. And one of them, which follows from the disability strategy, is that we also ask the member states to establish specific targets to increase the employment rate of persons with disabilities, and also for their participation in adult learning. This is to improve the employment level and the skills of persons with disabilities, contributing to the overall EU targets, which are set in the action plan. I'm sure that the matter of targets and indicators, which is all very difficult and technical, and you also heard the presentation of my colleague from Eurostat earlier today, that this will need to be discussed with member states. But you can rest assured that the Commission will push very hard for this to happen. If we cannot measure, it's very difficult to monitor progress. The Commission hopes to see, of course, these plans to be endorsed by the informal European Summit that will take place under the presidency of Portugal in Porto. There will be a conference on the 7th of May, and there will be an informal European Council meeting on the 8th of May. And you also had, and we hope that these will be approved by the summit in Porto. For us, this summit is a very important milestone on the way towards a stronger social Europe, and we're very, very grateful to the presidency of Portugal to put this so high on its presidency agenda. Finally, on the important awareness-raising dimension of this event. On the way to Porto, this 2-day event on disability has allowed us really to place the topic of disability much more prominently under the spotlight. Ministers, in the strategy that the Commission has stated that it will work with member states further to strengthen the awareness of the issues and to combat stereotypes around disability. This endeavor starts from here, from exchanges, fostering common understanding of disability and of the policies to be promoted in this area. A ministerial roundtable like the one we've had today can really trigger a change in beliefs, in attitudes and behaviors around disability. And then this can be also transferred back into your national context and ultimately into the lives of our citizens. And that's, after all, why all of this is being done. So, Ministers, thank you very much for your active participation in today's debate, which again helps the Commission very much in implementing the new strategy. The discussions held today will also support work on the Council conclusions on disability that was already launched by the Presidency for the June EPSCO meeting. I'm sure that from your side, you have found in this roundtable an opportunity for mutual learning and for a productive exchange of information. Let me thank again Minister Mendes Godinho and the Portuguese presidency for hosting this event, and I very much look forward to continue working together with you towards a union of equality and the Europe of social rights. Thank you very much.
Agradecemos a sua intervenção,
Thank you very much, Director General. We're now going to hear Ana Mendes Godinho, Minister of Labour, Solidarity and Social Security, Portugal. Juste Korte, Johannes Verdes Castanis, Ministers, Secretaries of State, and Ana Sofia Antunes, all of you. About 1,000 people have been attending this event over the 2 days, which indicates the importance of us all being here today to discuss these different themes and to change the people who require change in their life. Thank you for the openness with which you've approached this, the transparency throughout the 2 days, and particularly this morning, to discuss such important topics, which will allow us above all to continue securely to move forward, but also with ambition, ensuring that the work we're doing is going to continue over the coming years at national level and at European level. We will try, or I will try, to summarize the conclusion of these 3 roundtable sessions, try above all to identify the common points that have been identified by all participants. The first on the European Disability Card, fully recognized that it is important. It is an initiative that will give the disabled, above all, more mobility and access to services within the European Union. It's understood that disability and it requires us to remove existing barriers and obstacles, allowing access to services and more directly in terms of education and employment. The pilot scheme, which is ongoing in 8 member states, and we've heard of some specific examples of this, has indicated that it's an important instrument despite its complexity. It does indeed give encouragement to people throughout the Union, giving them added value, allowing them to gain access throughout all member states to culture, leisure, sports, and other activities. Clearly, we have to move forward the dimension of this disability card, but it has been indicated that it is an instrument with tremendous potential, and it requires our political involvement, very active involvement, so that we can, short term, implement this and extend it. The second roundtable dealt with targets and indicators. This was also recognized to be important. The data are important and statistics are important in terms of quality and quantity, so that we can obviously reveal and have proof of where we need to monitor the situations in which the disabled live at European level. Also essential to develop informed policies and also to assess and monitor the implementation of all of this, and also to look to the results that are achieved or in fact not achieved. Member states, despite recognizing the difficulties of comparing between the different realities, were also pleased with the initiative of the European Commission to develop further indicators for disability, and this will be a roadmap for implementation. We identified political areas such as the need to invest in data collection and also to have the disabled participate in education, in training on the labor market, and in terms of social protection, poverty and social exclusion. With those who are institutionalized, we have to look to their living conditions, health access, new technologies, and also the identification of gender. People have shared their experiences and talked about different projects that are underway in each of the member states. We also emphasize that these indicators are essential for accompanying the implementation of the European Social Pillar and the Action Plan, as well as recovery and resilience plans, which are determining for investment in these crucial areas and must be integrated into the new scoreboard of this 6 months presidency. I will conclude with this roundtable saying that with Eurostat, we had Maria Kotseva, who drew attention to the need with these indicators and ambitious indicators, which will be quality indicators, are determining to be political instruments for decision-making and communication. At the third panel session on the European Disability Platform, it was recognized that based on information and experience in the member states on national programs that are underway to guarantee the European strategy for the rights of the disabled and also the UN Convention, they have been pleased with the effort made by the European Commission in replacing the current high-level group by the platform, which will also count on the participation of disabled persons, which of course is a determining factor in dealing with these types of measure. To have people with some form of disability on board is important, and we can only all gain with this reinforcement. We're all aware of the major intention ahead of us and also the work to be done, but this is something that Europe is ambitious for. Social Europe, a truly inclusive Europe where all are important and nobody is left behind. A Europe that gives value to diversity and promotes equality, true, effective reality for all people, that also looks to overcoming with results and using the necessary resources to overcome poverty, exclusion, and the exclusion of the disabled. A Europe that will have to have a very ambitious vision, and this vision is for us, all ministers, with this mission we have. It's in our hands and it's in our decision-making capacity. And this is what I would like to leave with you, this challenge, because this is what we've been trying to transmit over the past 2 days to civil society, to all the institutions, all the organizations. This should be the organization that we assume in the conclusions, and we've got it in our hands in our decision-making within the Council. And I count on all of you on this route forward. This is the road to the social summit where I count on all of you to make this ambition a reality. And we can manage to change the lives of people. Lastly, I would like to thank all those who have been involved in this event of the Portuguese presidency. This puts disabled persons to the fore and a priority in our decision-making. A special word of thanks above all to the teams and the interpreters who have made this event possible. Teams that are quite extraordinary, that have been working for months, 24 hours a day, to guarantee that this event should be a success. Thank you all very much. Thank you for the honor that you have bestowed on us during our presidency to be able to put people to the front, to the fore. But above all, our decision-making capacity should be ambitious and daily routine, but from day to day, if each person that lives in the European Union, this will make every day a better day. Thank you all very much. I count on you and I count on your ambition to promote and carry this forward. Thank you. Thank you very much. With the permission of the Minister for Social Solidarity, I thank you all for attending. Thank you all for being here with us for 2 days. I sincerely hope that the rest of your day is a pleasant one. Until next time, thank you very much.